Welcome to the Story Eyed podcast. My name is Brendan.
And I'm Jen. On this show, we talk about all things Williams syndrome. We're excited to share our community with you. Thanks for being here. It's weird, just the two of us.
It is weird, just the two of us, because Brendan is much cooler than both of us combined.
He's the glue that keeps us together. We miss you, Brendan. You've been gone for less than a second.
Yeah, it is weird. It just I'm used to seeing the three of us on screen together.
Yes.
We have another great episode with Catherine Warden. There's Brendan.
Yes, I have you here in spirit, Brendan.
You're here with us, Brendan. Yay!
Yeah, let's put you right here.
Yep.
There we go. Yes, we have a great interview with Catherine. Catherine's from my community, which is like so fun. I don't feel like we hardly ever get anybody from Colorado, so it's really fun when we get to do that.
Recently I went through our entire database. I did find out that according to my data, now this is in no way complete and everything, but there are roughly 46 people in Colorado with Williams syndrome.
I mean, I knew it was pretty small. Why? Why are people...
There are 9 in Montana, but like the state with the most people is California. And according to our database, and these are people who are registered as members of the WSA, there's still only 289 people.
Really?
Yeah,
in California?
In California, and that's the most of any state. I could have missed people. And
what's the average?
Oh my God, I didn't even think of tallying that. I'd have to run that down because I mean, there's the pockets. There's the obviously a lot in New England. Oh, there's still just the population density of New England. Yeah. So there's a lot of people there. Then and obviously the vastness of the Great Plains and everything. Yeah. There's very few there, but the concentration of people in New England, California, Texas, and Florida. I wouldn't even know how to hazard a guess what the average.
So you're saying 46 is not as small as I say it is?
I have a feeling 46 would probably be right around that number. Right? Probably right around the mean. Hey everybody, producer Joel here. I did track down those numbers. And again, take this for what it's worth. This is just based on the research that I did. I'm an incredibly smart guy, but I probably could make a mistake here and there. The average number per state is around 51. It's 51.4 people per state. Now, the median of that, of course, is the average of the 25th and 26th values, because, of course, there are 50 states, and I'm just counting the 50 states. I'm not counting provinces and territories, etc. But the median is 30. So you can get a better sense of where the average is and how the average is affected by the density of certain geographic areas. That is just the numbers based on the research that I did. And again, there are states with single-digit numbers of individuals that we know of. And of course, there are those dense pockets that I mentioned with Jen. Take it for what it's worth. They're just numbers. It's been a fascinating experiment to see if I could break down and try to identify where individuals with Williams syndrome are. Now, obviously, there's all the other people that are part of the WSA, that are part of the caregiving team, the professionals, the doctors, everybody else. It's and everybody is welcome in the WSA. But I was trying to identify the individuals with Williams syndrome. This is as good as I could do, and I'm by no means a data and statistical expert. A guy with a degree in theater does, but I gave it a go.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Yeah, Glenn is one of our community members. Like I was saying, like our community tends and maybe it's because we don't know, but there seems like a lot in a similar age range, and then there's like some fringe people, and he's like one of our older members. There's not that many, so I loved hearing like Catherine share about how like him finding his people, like the Williams syndrome community at an older age, right? Like, so he was at least in his 50s, has been so impactful to him. And it's been impactful to Catherine as well, as like she's transitioning into being his full-time caregiver. So I think there was like a lot of good nuggets we got here.
I was fascinated with Catherine talking about how her mom having to relinquish that
No.
thing. Oh
That
my
gives me
God.
goosebumps. Like, I think about that for myself when it's time. Oh,
Theoretically, we're going to have to relinquish
it's going to happen, but you don't.
our caregiver role. Oh, what is that? What do I do then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that I thought was really interesting about this conversation was this, maybe, like I said, because I'm in the middle of it too, like being in the sandwiched situation of having to deal with, caring for somebody with a disability, but then also taking care of an aging parent. I mean, we didn't even like scratch the surface on that, but that is a whole, yeah, you got to have wine and a beer for that.
Yeah, maybe if we do something like that for convention, maybe that's an after hours.
Yes.
Like meet at such and such bar, and we're gonna have a sandwich generation discussion.
There's got to be other people out there that are caring for their sibling with Williams, or like you were saying, Aaron, right? Like having that, relinquish of control with a parent. I would love to hear their stories.
Yeah. Reach out to us, podcast@williams-syndrome.org, or go to williams-syndrome.org/podcast. You can click on the button and get a hold of us and maybe fill out the interview sheet, and we'll have you on.
Yes. In the meantime, enjoy Catherine's very, very like real, like you said, just, relatable sharing about life as a caregiver of somebody with Williams.
Hi, I'm Morgan Jane Starkman from Inner Sense Organic Beauty, and I'm so excited to share something that I love, our Hair Renew Scalp Hair Bath and Soothing Conditioner. Smooths my hair and soothes my scalp irritation. These products leave my scalp feeling truly calm, and they make me feel confident and cared for, and I think you'll love them too. Let's take care of our scalp and hair together. Try them today and save 15% on your first purchase with my code Morgan15 at InnerSenseBeauty.com.
Alrighty, well, hello, Catherine. How are you?
I'm fine. I don't think I've met you, Brendan.
No, we have not met yet.
Okay.
I'm Brendan. It's very nice to meet you.
And I know Jen.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey.
So, for those who might not know who you are, why don't you take a second or two to introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
My name is Catherine, and I am the older sibling with Glenn, who has Williams syndrome, and I am a retired special education teacher. So my toolbox is full of strategies and skills. My skill set is much higher with my family than another sibling or my mom. So I came on board with being a caregiver for Glenn 3 years ago. And we were all aware that he was different when he was growing up. Mm-hmm. But at that time, Williams was not even identified.
Right.
And my family, we knew Glenn was special, but we had the same expectations. My father and my mother said, he's going to learn to do these things. We're not going to do these things for him. And so he was put in preschool like at 3 years old. He got early intervention immediately from his primary doctor suggesting that, he needs some support. So that's kind of our backstory. I'm only 4 years older than Glenn, and growing up, I was always responsible for him when we were playing outside or going on our little trips. So Glenn and I have a very close relationship, and it's much easier for me to understand what he's talking about. Sometimes he goes on tangents and people are like, I'm not sure what he's trying to tell me. And I know exactly what questions to ask to help him clarify. And then we're back on the same topic. Yeah. So it just works well with Glenn and I to be together. And he officially moved in with me permanently last April. So that was a big switch for Glenn. We're only 20 minutes from our mom. So there's still the opportunity for him to be involved in his his old community, and he's getting used to his new community in my house. So yeah.
I love that. So is Glenn with you? Where's Glenn today?
Glenn is at his adult day programming today on Fridays. He does it for about a half of the morning.
Okay.
So that's where he's at today. He's out of the house 6 out of the 7 days of the week.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, we have to say hello to Glenn. We miss
Hey,
Glenn.
Glenn, what's up, Glenn?
He's one of my favorite people at the walk. So Catherine's in Colorado. Catherine and Glenn are in Colorado, and so I get to see you guys every year. And it's so fun to see like first my daughter who's 15, like kind of like the older individuals with Williams syndrome and like what their paths look like. And they're such great mentors. I think that's what I would say about Glenn is like when I see him at the walks, he's like going around talking to everybody and he's like giving sage advice. And I appreciate that so much. Have you guys always been in Colorado?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And he lived with my mom since in the community, which is a suburb of Denver, since he was 8 years old. So he's been in the same neighborhood for over 40 years.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a huge shift for him to be out of that neighborhood and out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm curious about that. So did you mention how old Glenn is? Did we say?
He is 54.
54. Okay. So Glenn, we just told your age. Hopefully you're okay with that.
He's perfectly fine. And I'm 4 years older. So.
Okay. So we'll do the math there. But
59.
So he's 54, and like you were saying, like Williams syndrome wasn't like discovered, right? And there wasn't any testing available. And I think that's so fascinating. Like, I don't know if you've listened to our previous podcast where we've had individuals come on who were kind of like diagnosed with Williams syndrome before there was an official diagnosis. Like, do you know anything about how that process looked for him? Or like, when was he officially diagnosed with Williams?
I'm going to be honest with you. He's never officially been tested for Williams syndrome.
Really?
He just has all the characteristics, and the primary doctor was well informed that recognized these characteristics.
Okay.
The way that my mom found out that he possibly could be part of the Williams syndrome community is they were out somewhere eating or shopping or somebody, and someone came up to Glenn and called him by a different name. Mm-hmm. And my brothers and my mom said, that's not so-and-so. And they go, yeah, he works at the Butterfly Pavilion. And my mom says, no, he works at King Soopers. So my mom went to the Butterfly Pavilion, introduced herself, and found out that this person had Williams syndrome. So that's where she went and did some digging.
Isn't
Funny
that
how the stars align, right?
Yeah. So, and at that time there was like a potluck or something with the community. And so I was already out of the house by that time, attending college, and I heard about it. And Glenn was just like, everybody looked like me, and that was his first introduction to feeling like he belonged to a community. But then, life goes on, and my mom just wasn't engaged with Williams Syndrome Association. And so it wasn't until I came into the picture that I said, let's relook at this community and see if we can get some support for Glenn.
Yeah. So that was only in the last 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, well. So yeah, so fascinating. So tell us about that. Like so Glenn lived in the same community for over 40 years, which I think is like, we always talk about this, like how community is so important and making sure that your community knows like your person with Williams syndrome so that like as they age, right, that like everybody kind of knows what's going on. And then I have this fear now that it's like, well, then what happens if you move and start over? How has that starting over process been? I mean, I know he still is 20 minutes away, but it's different, right?
It is different. And let me just backtrack a little bit. When he stayed in high school an extra year, and they just involved him with some on-the-job training.
Yes.
And he got trained to be a chef, actually. The neighbor across the street it was a teacher for Voc Ed, and talked to the special education department and said, I want Glenn in my class. And they explained Glenn's challenges. And he said, oh, I know Glenn. He will be in my class and I want him there every day. And so Glenn was actually trained to be a chef, and this neighbor just took him under his wing. But as we know, it was just too fast paced for Glenn to actually pursue a job. So he was trained to be a courtesy clerk. So he has been in the grocery industry for 35 plus years.
Wow.
I love that. And he's worked at a couple different places, right?
Yeah. He started at King Soopers, and he did not receive on-the-job coaching other than that first onboarding. And what we discovered was, unfortunately, there was some bullying going on. And he wasn't expressing it to us because he didn't want us to get angry with him or my parents. He just kept all this information to himself. And then it finally just blew up, and it was no longer a good fit for Glenn to be at that large store. So I worked with with the adult services that Glenn was connected with, and I demanded that he get retrained through Voc Rehab. And they retrained him to continue being a courtesy clerk. But we chose a smaller grocery store, which is Sprouts. And he was walking to work when he was at King Soopers. So the big shift was, how do we get him there? And as a family, we just took turns picking him up and taking him, because it's a 20-minute drive.
For you, it's a 20-minute drive.
From now where I live, it's a half-hour drive. From my mother's house, it was 20 minutes.
Okay.
So, but that's kind of where he is now. Is he still works for the grocery industry 2 days a week. The difference is he has on-the-job coaching every week for an hour.
Good.
And, so the adult... when I came on board, when the case manager reached out to me and said, we're seeing signs that he needs more support, even in the home, and your mother is aging, and said, he said, do you know of anybody that can come into the home, give Glenn some support, make him feel a little bit stronger about what he can do? And I said, well, that would be me. Because I was already on the projection to retire a couple months later. So I said, I will be that person. They gave me a list of agencies that could be training me. And we did this through a Medicaid waiver. And Glenn was never on Medicaid until about 4 years ago. And so that was, my mom just didn't have that knowledge. And they don't openly share with you how to access services.
Right. They don't.
So
it's complicated. It's so complicated to be on all of that stuff. So I'm sure your mom was like, yeah, we don't need it. We've been fine without it.
Exactly. And because I have a strong background in special education, I know about resources. I was actually on the transition team for adult services for Denver Public Schools for 3 years. So I kind of was on that. I know what to do after high school. So I really, the nice thing is that one of the agencies they recommended was my first teaching job.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a no-brainer. I said, I'm going to work with Laird and Hall. They serve birth to senior citizens. They do everything through school, through therapy, through day programming, on-the-job training. So it was a no-brainer.
So he works at Sprouts 2 days a week, and then the other days you said he's out 6 days, 6 out of 7?
Yeah, he does day programming Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Right. What does it entail?
He's with a group of individuals that have a range of skills, but he's when he first went, it was right after COVID. So there weren't a lot of clients wanting to be out in the community, but now they've built build up their clients, and they have two different groups. One group goes out in the community almost every single time.
Okay.
And there's another group that tends to kind of only go out when there's more staff available. And
Sure.
Glenn, if they do a whole group thing, that's when they
Right.
do zoos and museums.
Okay.
And Glenn is better matched. He does not like to be around other individuals that he can't communicate with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oftentimes day programming has lots of clients that have a different form of
Disability. Yep.
communication.
Yeah, we talk about that too, like here on the podcast. Like so like, this whole movement with inclusion, right? And putting like people with Williams syndrome in a general education classroom. A lot of times that is like the least restrictive environment for them, because like when people with Williams syndrome are around more disabled students, it can be a struggle. You can see behaviors, you can see the communication challenges that you're talking about. It's obviously not, for everybody, but I can imagine in Glenn's case, he's like, I want to be communicating with people.
Yes, and I've had to tell him, because he sees behaviors. He'll say so and so did this today, and I said, well, how did you react? And he goes, I just moved away, and I let the staff take care of it. Because that's a big thing had to talk to Glenn is you're in charge of yourself. If you feel uncomfortable, tell a staff member, and if they're not listening to you, you call me, and I'll help. Because I can talk him down or, give him the support he needs in real time, because we do FaceTime. That's the only way he uses the phone. If he can't see your face, he doesn't want to communicate on the phone.
Also sounds very similar. Yes. Oh, I love that.
So that's part of it. He gets
okay.
2 days out of the month, he has a one-to-one companion that he has been working with for over 20 years. Oh. Yes. That is through his community services. They matched him up, realizing when he graduated from high school that he needed sort of like a male mentor.
Yes.
And so,
Love that.
And so he's been with this particular person for over 20 years. And what they do is they have a very specific routine, because that's what Glenn likes.
Yes.
They go to the park first, do a walk, and it's the same park that we do the Williams walk with.
Oh, really?
Yes. So he's very familiar with E.B. Rains Park.
Yes.
Then they either go to the library and they go to Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
So why I'm telling you all this has been the biggest challenge with him moving in with me, because Jeff can't. When he picks Glenn up from my place, he has to stay within a mile or so here. He can't travel all the way to North Glen because of gas mileage or something.
Oh, okay.
So that was the biggest hardship for Glenn is I want to go back to Mom's. I want to be back at Mom's so I can go to the park with Jeff.
Yeah.
And so Jeff and I had a conversation, and he understands change is very difficult.
Yes.
And he knew this was coming, that Glenn was going to eventually be moving in with me. We just didn't know how soon,
Yeah.
So we compromised. So one day out of the month, I drive Glenn the night before to our mother's house. And so Jeff can pick him up there. This past Wednesday, he was in North Glen.
Okay.
Now, the next time he sees Jeff, he's going to be picked up here.
Okay.
So, but that was his biggest challenge. And he was getting angry and yelling at Jeff and clenching his fists and stomping and, throwing things around. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I had, that was our biggest shift. And once we did this compromise, Glenn was on board, So it's change is hard.
Yes.
The good news is I'm in the same county as my mother. So we did not have to look for other agencies to work with. So his day programming picks me up here, picks him up here. There was no lag of services at all. If I was in a different county, then we would have been starting all over again with getting him some services. So that's a good thing. And I purposely chose to stay in the county. I moved just a year and a half ago.
Okay.
to be here because I lived in a place where it's 1 bedroom and I have to make sure that he has his own bedroom in order
Yeah.
for him to live with me. We did try me going into the house with my mom,
Mhm.
what I was finding is as soon as I would leave, he would go back to his old habits. And he
Yeah.
just wasn't getting the connections with my mom and my brother that he gets with me. That constant interaction he needs, and he just wasn't getting it at my mom's house.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and so you guys, like you were saying, I don't know if you were saying it while we were recording, but I know you mentioned it like when we first started talking. So in Colorado, we just don't have a lot of Williams syndrome people.
Yeah.
We don't. Our community is like real teeny tiny. And that is a challenge, right? When you are like kind of on one end of the spectrum or another. It seems like we have quite a few that are in that Stella's age range, that like,
Yes.
8 to 20. But
Yeah.
then like the fringe, right? We only have like, I don't think we even have any little babies right now. If anybody wants to have a little Williams syndrome baby, we'd love our next walk. We would love one.
Yes.
And the same, right, on the older side, right? On
Right.
the more tenured, and we only have a few people with Williams syndrome. So you started getting Glenn connected to the, what do we call it? We call it the adventure seekers.
The adventure
Yes.
seekers. I got online just to look at Williams syndrome again.
Yeah.
Just to see what's this
What's new?
organization doing. And I found that you guys did Zoom calls. And I'm like, let's try this.
Yeah.
I have pictures of Glenn getting on Zoom and how I just saw all this stress just kind of melt away as he was talking to everybody. And even back then, it was a small, group because it was right during the COVID shutdown. And I just saw that, and it just warmed my heart that he felt like this connection, even though it's over a video, he still feels connected.
He does. And so that I guess led you guys to, does he still do it like every week?
Yeah, he does the once a month.
Once a month.
It's a challenge to do the Adventure Seekers Dream Team that meets Saturday because that's my day off with Glenn.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't yet trained anybody in my mom's house to help him log on.
Okay.
So that's been a challenge.
Yeah.
For us. And sometimes he likes his Saturdays where that's his privacy day. So no one can really bother him. If he wants to be in his room all day and play his music and read books, he doesn't have to interact with anybody. We give him he gets his privacy days, which is the weekend. And so I would like him to be more involved and do it every Saturday. I just haven't found the right routine to do it yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so when you guys were doing you're like on some sort of structure for the calls, and then how did the Orlando trip happen?
I just learned about it online, that there was a +1 trip, and I thought, wow, this is wonderful. And we had the finances at that time to do it. So we did, it was not even a hardship for either one of us to attend at that time. And I just have to tell you, Glenn, we walked into the hotel room and we checked in, of course, and we went back upstairs. And then we just put our bags away. And I said, let's go to the front area again. And you can start meet some of these individuals. And we get in the elevator and he said to me, and I'm sorry if I choke up, but this is what I realized.
Okay.
Where I'm needed. This is my calling. But he said, Kathy, and he calls me Kathy where everybody calls me Catherine because that's my childhood nickname. So he said, Kathy, no one's staring at me. No one is looking at me. And that just told me how much in his day-to-day life he views himself as different, and he's trying to be as normal as can be in the community. And that's not okay. He shouldn't have to work so hard to fit into someone else's idea of what he should do. And I think that, part of it is him being in the school system and being bullied and being at his previous employer where they didn't act to support him. They let him go. They let him go. They said, no, he can't work here anymore. and didn't problem solve with the family or with the agency that he's hooked up with. So Glenn has some pretty strong feelings about how he wants to be perceived. But that's hard to hear sometimes. He'll tell me, and he has a photographic memory. I don't know if other individuals have that trait, but he can tell me the date, the people involved, and give a very detailed information about what happened when he was in school. Or remind me of a memory, of growing up. And I'm like, I don't remember that at all. He goes, yeah, it happened. You were right there. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you're sharing this again because I don't remember it. But he's a very perceptive man and very knowledgeable about lots of topics. And he can really give insight because of he's so empathetic and all of that he has a heart of gold, and he gets very upset when people are mistreated. And he brings in his feelings about what happened to him. So we've had some challenges supporting him because we didn't realize how much he's been holding in. And that Orlando trip just gave him the opportunity that
let it out.
If he wanted to sing out loud and off key, go for it, because his community
right?
did it. Because in church and everything, my mom and my other sibling were always telling, shh, be quiet, don't sing so loud. And now he's at a different church and they welcome, if he wants to bellow and sing as his heart content, they embrace it. So I think that's why I'm a perfect match for my brother. It's not for every sibling.
Yeah. No.
It simply isn't. And so I was allowed to have my life, and I didn't become his caregiver right after he turned 18. So that's also a plus, that I still feel like I was able to live a very successful professional life where I didn't have to worry about my brother.
We talk a lot about this on the podcast, even these opportunities that our individuals with Williams syndrome have to connect with other people with Williams syndrome are so important. And like you were saying, like just to be able to be in a room of people and be like, oh, like you are my people, right? I'm one of you, you're one of me. And I'm sure you felt it even as a sibling, because I feel it as a parent, to like the first time I actually came into a group of people with Williams syndrome was at a convention. And at first I was like, whoa, like this is a lot. But then like as the days were on, I was like, this is awesome, right? Like my kid is doing all this stuff. And normally I'd be like, whoa, like trying to control her. And like you were saying, making sure that like she was presentable to other people, but like in a room of people who get it and are like, yes, my person is the same, or, they're not exactly the same, but here's how they're similar. Like there is something really, really powerful to that. And I know, Brendan, you feel the same, like when you're around like your peers.
Yeah, I feel a sense of like, okay, I can let my guard down just enough so that I can just be myself and not have a care in the world. Like I can just be me and, whatever.
Yeah. And it is so interesting too, Catherine, hearing your story, because like, it means that's a relatively new thing, right? You guys didn't have that for most of Glenn's life. So to be able to have that now has got to be like surreal.
It is surreal. And when people who have known me my whole life didn't know, they always knew that I had a brother who was identified and disabled. They just didn't understand all the nuances and how much it entailed and, what it meant. They just, and the reason they knew is because I was a special ed teacher, and they said, well, why'd you get into this? Well, it's a no-brainer. It was a smooth transition. So they knew that someone in my family had special needs. So that's the extent. That part, I feel supported as well with the association. Even though I'm not directly linked with a particular person, I know if I ever have a challenge, or if I need to just say, hey, I just want to connect with someone, because I often feel as a caregiver, I'm on my own as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the hardest part of my job
Mhm.
is I don't have anybody, like my closest friends are not in my same position.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, they will ask me to do things, and I'm sort of like, well, let me check in with Glenn first and see what his schedule is. And they're like, well, oh, then you can't go. And I said, oh, no, I can go. I just need to let Glenn know ahead of time so he understands that routine for that particular evening or night, because he is as independent as he can be. I mean, I think coming on board, what I did to help him with his independence is we moved his bedroom from my mom's basement to the first floor.
Okay.
I made his bedroom into a mini apartment.
Ah,
So he got his own refrigerator, and I said, no one can come into your room unless you're inviting them.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer for Glenn, because he always felt like people were coming into his room and cleaning it and doing stuff and moving things out. And, because he does have difficulty with organization and keeping up on things. And they thought they were helping him,
Okay.
but he's,
Yeah.
that's his stuff. Don't touch my stuff,
Yeah.
So that was a game changer of doing that, is making his room an apartment.
Okay.
And he still has it at my mom's house. He has his own little mini refrigerator. He has a TV in there. So he, if he wants to shut the curtain, because it's, he doesn't want a door because he doesn't like that closed in feeling. So we do a curtain instead. So that really helped. And then I introduced to him iPhones. So everybody in the family has iPhones, and we use FaceTime to communicate with Glenn, and that really helps as well. So even when he wasn't living with me, anytime he felt frustrated, he could call me, and I could talk him through, where I didn't have to drop everything and race over to my mom's house unless I was absolutely needed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
I know there's like a lot of nervousness like in our community about technology, and for understandable reasons, but like I have definitely seen with Stella, it has been very helpful.
Yes.
And, I think that it has like allowed her many great skills and like strengths that I didn't anticipate. So, it's good to hear that Glenn is having success with that as well. And so, like now for you, like, is your mom helpful, like is in terms of being a resource for you for caregiving, or like, are you guys so different?
No, she is not a good match for me to reach out to her for support, because she needs so much support from me.
I know.
Because she is 81.
Yeah.
And had some health challenges, and that's why his case manager asked if there was someone who could come into the home. Another thing it has to do with communication is my mom is hard of hearing. So she doesn't always wear her hearing aids. So then Glenn can't communicate with her.
Yeah.
So, and she just has a lot of health issues, and she's, struggling because, she lost her husband several years ago, and that was the source of income. So everything had to be cut down income wise. And so that's been a struggle for my mom as well, as how do I manage this house, on a limited income. So she's not a support for me, unfortunately, and me getting support with taking care of Glenn. What she does do is, we do have a good system that I drop Glenn off on Friday evening, and I pick up Glenn on Sundays.
Okay.
So that is helpful for me, just so that I get a little bit of a break. When Glenn is here, he's more like a roommate.
Yeah.
He does his own cooking. He is able to keep himself busy without having me telling him what to do. So that's the positive, is that I don't treat him like he needs help. I'll just give suggestions, or I'll ask him, what do you think about? And then he'll tell me. And we make jokes about the maid needs to be fired because she didn't do the dishes. And he, and he knows that's because that's my job. And I'll say, well, we just need to fire her. And he laughs. And I just, there's different things that we just have this kind of nice relationship that we can tease each other. And I told Glenn, at any time, my job to make sure he feels safe. And I said at any time he feels uncomfortable about anything, if he doesn't understand something on the news, that he can ask me anything and I will be honest with you, Glenn. I will tell you, I am not going to sugarcoat things. If I'm angry because you did something that disappointed me, I will let you know. I'm not going to yell at you, but I'm going to say, hey, and I do the sideways funny face. And that's when he knows he probably did something that disappointed me. And so then he'll go, what? And I go, this is what's bothering me right now, Glenn. And then we talk it through. And the next day, he's back to doing what he needed to be doing. And I'm back to doing what I needed to be doing. So that kind of relationship. So it does sometimes feel overwhelming. So I would love to be connected with other caregivers who are in their same situation with me.
Yeah.
The agency I do work with, the family caregivers, they have monthly meetings to give us information. And I repeatedly say, I want to be connected with other caregivers. And there's just no movement on that. A lot of the caregivers are parents, and so they're very guarded and don't want to share too much, where I'm an open book. I just, I feel very comfortable saying this is my challenge, and I'm not afraid of voicing my concern or advocating in a different way. I do belong to several advocacy groups, and I share my story. I share Glenn's story. I say, this is what our challenges are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's really interesting, even though it's a little bit different, Catherine. So I just heard this term the other day, and I think it definitely applies to me. It's called I'm in the sandwich generation. Have you heard this? Okay. And it's I'm raising teenagers and one with a disability, but I'm also taking care of my aging parent. And my mom passed away 2 years ago, and my dad is young in his early 70s, but he has a lot of health challenges. And so I'm constantly moving from caregiving for him to caregiving for Stella, and going back and forth. And it's very, very taxing. So I just want you to know I see you. And I can only imagine that if I feel this way, you probably feel even more so. And I do think I wonder now that you're bringing that up, if there are other people in that same scenario in our community who are struggling caregiving for their person with Williams syndrome, caregiving with their aging parents. And we should have some wine and talk about that.
Yes. And my mom also, I have to, because of her health issues, she's constantly calling me. And what I've done is I've set some clear boundaries again with her. Yep. And I said, I want to be your daughter, and I can't be everything to you. I'm sorry, but that's just where I'm at. And she's accepted the boundaries. And when she needs my support, she'll tell me what it looks like. And I tell her yay or nay, or let's modify it a little bit. I did take her to the doctors yesterday because I want to share with the doctor what I see.
What you see. Yep.
Because my mom will often embellish because she likes the attention. And I say, you're the healthiest I've seen in years, Mom. So your things are going well. So I can share that with the doctor. And I can also hear what the doctor's telling her, because when she gets home, she'll kind of embellish all over again. And she tells my other brother what the doctor said. And I said, Mom, that's not what the doctor said. So that's my biggest challenge, and is setting boundaries. My biggest supporter was my father.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And he divorced my mom when I was 14. Glenn was 8. So he hasn't been in Glenn's life very much. He only saw Glenn when I brought Glenn with me to my dad's house, even though they lived in the same community.
Yeah.
He's always been kind of distant. And But when I was struggling with everything I'm doing with my plate being so full, I could talk to my dad and just have a venting partner. It wasn't like he was telling me what to do. He would just say, I get it. I'm sorry that you're having to do this, but at least I had someone to talk to when I was like, I need a life vest. I'm just, I'm feeling overwhelmed. And when I lost him a year and a half ago, that support is gone. And so I'm still trying to find someone I can connect with that we can kind of, just be there for each other or say, I get it. I'm there too, or, so that's that's one of the reasons I like to go to the Williams Walk, is just so I can, share my story and say, this is what you can expect. And this is Glenn. And he, he is a dynamic individual. And yes, it's scary. It's scary to let them go and let them do things on their own. And I said, the worst thing that's going to happen is he's going to make a mistake. And we all make mistakes, and we can move forward,
Yeah. Well, Glenn is, like I said, he is a very beloved member of our community, and you know that. And I am excited that more people now will get to hopefully hear about him. He is so much fun. And like I said, I know that parents of people with Williams syndrome that are younger, look up to you guys for all the work that you're doing. So thank you.
Yeah,
we probably don't hear that enough. We so appreciate you and you being part of this community.
Yes, well, thank you. And he has been celebrated by the agency that supports me financially. And his story, they put him in the newsletter 2 or 3 times. So,
really?
Yes, Laird and Hall has celebrated him. Me and him together have been celebrated and shared on their newsletters, on their website. And then a year later, he was celebrated again for the job coaching they provide Glenn. They shared his story once again. He has been a guest auctioneer at 2 charity events for that agency. They personally call me and say, we have another event. Can Glenn help out the auctioneer? And I have videos and pictures of it. It is quite, it's very powerful because they know he has the communication skills to tell people how it is and what support needs to happen.
I love that.
So he's even though the agency we work with, even though he's not part of that day program, so much of the staff knows who he is. And I have to tell them, Glenn doesn't attend any of your things. And they go, he doesn't, he's not
still
part
love
of the
him.
paper?
It's like he does.
Yeah. That's just how, they all know him because of me voicing and giving him the power to be the individual he is. And I'm sure in another couple months, they're going to reach out and say, we have another charity event. Can Glenn attend? And, they just love him for who he is.
Oh my gosh. The next one that he does, you're going to have to tell us so we can post it on the Williams syndrome.
And I posted those things also through Williams syndrome, just to say Glenn was celebrated. This is I share the pictures and everything. So
auctioneer would be a great job for one of our people with Williams syndrome.
Yes.
That would be so fun.
They might not want the auction to end, though. They might just keep it going.
That's true.
True.
Going once, going twice, going 3 times, going 4 times, five times, going 6 times.
500, 500, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Look what we started.
My mom was actually at that event and she saw Glenn in a different way as well. So sometimes it's hard for her to step back and see him as a very successful adult.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I loved having you on and you sharing about Glenn. That's so fun.
Yeah, it was great.
I've always wanted to be part of this, and I'm glad this timing worked out.
Well, Catherine, thank you so much. This was just wonderful.
You've been listening to the Starry-Eyed Podcast, presented by the Williams Syndrome Association and sponsored by Inner Sense Organic Beauty. The show is hosted by Jennifer Keaton and Brendan Lemieux and produced by me, Joel Lispman. All music by Tommy Barbarella and Mariella Elm. Got a question for the show? Email us at podcast@williams-syndrome.org. Video version of the podcast available on the Williams Syndrome Association channel on YouTube and on the Starry-Eyed Podcast page on Facebook. Audio version available wherever you get your podcast delights. So like and subscribe and help spread some Williams syndrome awareness.